Hi guys, Dr. Rob Barrington here with some more nutrition advice. I wanted to make some more comments about vitamin D really, and this relates to a paper that I have read quite recently, which I thought was interesting, so I thought I would share some of the thoughts that I'd had after reading that paper. Now, the reason I talk a lot about vitamin D is because a lot of people ask me, how much vitamin D do you take? I think people are starting to catch on to the idea that you might need to take vitamin D supplements, and so a lot of people ask, how much vitamin D should you take? Well, the truth is you don't need any vitamin D at all if you have adequate sunlight. If you can get out into the sun, if you live in an area where there is constant, continual, moderate to hot sunlight, you don't need any vitamin D in your diet at all. Your skin can synthesize vitamin D from cholesterol under a catalyst of ultraviolet light, and therefore you don't need any vitamin D at all. But that doesn't relate to everybody in the world, because not everybody lives in hot climates. I live in the United Kingdom. We've had a pretty patchy summer so far. And if you look out of the, don't know if you can hear it now, but it's absolutely throwing it down with rain. And we've had this rain now for a couple of days. And the point about this is you can go out in the summer in the United Kingdom, even if it's overcast, and you will still produce vitamin D. Some of the ultraviolet light will get through the clouds, but the point is people don't go out when it's raining. So for the last 2 days I've been inside and I haven't been out in the sun, and therefore I haven't produced any vitamin D in my skin, so I need a dietary source. So those people that live at higher latitudes require some vitamin D in their diet, particularly during the winter months, because they can't synthesize vitamin D year round. Now, this paper that I came across, I will put the link in the comments box below this video. It was quite interesting. They took subjects that were deficient in vitamin D. So they had vitamin D levels that were about 10 nanograms per mil. And that is in what you would class those subjects as deficient. They had very low levels of vitamin D. And they gave them a supplement of 1,200 IU of vitamin D3. That's the cholecalciferol animal form of vitamin D. And they gave them that supplement every day for 16 weeks. Now, it's interesting that in those 16 weeks, they only managed to get plasma levels, a mean plasma level of 24 nanograms per mil, which is still insufficient. So I thought this was interesting because 1,200 IU is a reasonable dose of vitamin D, certainly more than you would get in a multivitamin, and it's more than the recommended amount in most countries. That amount of vitamin D was still not enough to take them out of deficiency and into an optimal area, an optimal kind of zone of vitamin D status. So they were still insufficient. Their plasma levels did go up compared to the placebo group, but they only went up to about 24 nanograms per mil. And the other interesting thing about the paper, if you look at the graph that is in the paper, is that their levels had peaked. There was a plateau on the graph, which indicates that they probably wouldn't have been able to get their plasma levels much higher than the 24 nanograms per mil, no matter how long they took that vitamin D supplement for. And this really is interesting, because many researchers are now saying that you need quite high amounts of vitamin D when you don't have access to the sun. 2,000 IU is quite a common dose that's bandied about. It may even be that some people require higher amounts than that. I know there are examples of people, and there are examples of studies as well, using 5,000 IU of vitamin D, and this appears to be safe in the medium term at any rate. It's taking it over the winter months. 5,000 IU does appear to be quite safe. So the 2,000 IU that was recommended maybe 5 or 6 years ago is now starting to creep up to 5,000 IU. So The RDA, I think the RDA is 400 to about 800 IU in most countries. It's quite low. That really is not enough in the absence of sunlight. I think that's well established. But this paper really shows that 1,200 IU of vitamin D, it was in the more absorbable form of vitamin D3 as well. You would need even more of if it was in the vitamin D2 form, because the vitamin D2 form is not quite so absorbable. It's not quite so bioavailable. It doesn't raise levels of 2,5-hydroxyvitamin D in the plasma to quite the same degree. So this 1,200 IU is probably still not enough to take most people out of an insufficiency. The other interesting thing about this paper was that those people who managed to get their plasma levels above 24 nanograms per mil, which is about 60 nanomoles per litre if you prefer the other units, those people that managed to get their plasma levels above that level actually had improvements in their insulin function. They had improvements in beta cell function, they had improvements in insulin sensitivity, and they had improvements in glucose tolerance. So this relates to the insulin sensitizing effects of vitamin D, and many people who are insulin resistant may simply have a vitamin D deficiency. Well, we know that a lot of the population in developed, a large portion of the population in developed countries does seem to have vitamin D insufficiencies. Many people actually have vitamin D deficiencies. So I thought that was interesting. If you want to have a look at the paper, like I say, I will put the link in the comments box below this video, so you can have a look. You can have a look at the graph. You can see the graph nicely plateauing off after I think it's about halfway through the study, so it's about 8 weeks, and then from that point onwards there's a plateau, and it doesn't look like their plasma levels are going to go much above 24 nanograms per mil. What do I recommend for vitamin D intake? Really the best way to do it is to take a dose of vitamin D and get your plasma levels measured. There is also, if you go on the internet, there's plenty of information about what the optimal amount of vitamin D should be. I don't really want to go into that at the moment because my other videos do cover it. So if you look through my other videos, you will see what sort of plasma levels of 2,5-hydroxyvitamin D you should be getting, and what sort of supplement range you should be able to take in order to be able to get your plasma levels up to those ranges. But because everybody is different, it's very difficult to make an actual recommendation. The only way to know is to actually get your plasma levels measured after you have taken supplements, and it's not that expensive. You can do that. You could probably get your doctor to do it. I know there are kits that you can buy and you can send off to get your plasma levels measured, so that's one way of doing it. But really we're looking at above 2,000 IU, and to get your plasma levels really into the optimal range, you need above 40 nanograms per mil. That's really what I would say is the minimal cut-off point. Above that, where toxicity comes in, what the optimal amount is very difficult to say, but really you want to be getting your plasma levels above 40 nanograms per mil, so above about 100 nanomoles per litre in the other units. So I hope that was interesting. Just my ramblings on vitamin D. The weather is very bad at the moment in the United Kingdom, so if you're interested in vitamin D, we've not really had much sun for at least the last week. And if you're in tune with nature, and you look outside, you'll see that the days are getting shorter. It's getting colder again, so it's that time of year again where you do have to start thinking about taking your vitamin D supplements. It won't be long until the sun's not hot enough, particularly when it's cloudy, to be able to produce vitamin D in your skin. Your vitamin D level, your 2,5-hydroxyvitamin D levels will start to fall, and you will be at risk of developing a vitamin D insufficiency over the winter if you don't consider supplements. You can't really get the vitamin D you need in your diet. Even if you have a very high vitamin D diet, you can't really get the vitamin levels. You can't really get your 2,5-hydroxyvitamin levels high enough just through diet. It's increasingly being shown that you do need supplements if you don't have sunlight. Of course, the other alternative is to use sunbeds during the winter. Some people do that. do that. There are studies that have shown that people that use sunbeds do have much higher levels of 2,5-hydroxyvitamin D, so that's another option if that's something that you would consider. But taking supplements of vitamin D3 is the easiest way to go, and above 2,000 IU I would say is the minimum amount. And you really need to get your plasma levels of 2,5-hydroxyvitamin D above 40 nanograms per mil, and above that's equivalent to above 100 nanomoles per litre. So have a look at the paper. It will be in the comments box below. If you have any comments, any questions, please leave them in the comments boxes, and I will get back to you as always as soon as possible.